This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. Proud Boys are now required to pay one of the most historic black churches in the District of Columbia over $1 million punitive damages for their role about a month before Jan 6th in ripping down and violating a Black Lives Matters banner that had been affixed to the Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church, celebrating its over 180 years of existence. It's one of several historic black churches that were near the meeting point for the Proud Boys, who had arrived in the District of Columbia in December in order, obviously, to surveil and to plan their January 6th attack on the Capitol and on democracy. You might remember that Enrique Tarrio and a group of other Proud Boys have all been convicted of seditious conspiracy back in May for their role in organizing. Enrique Tarrio attempted a very unique defense. He said he wasn't even in Washington on January 6th, so he shouldn't be convicted of the conspiracy. The jury had other ideas and convicted him and a group of other people that are all part of the leadership of the Proud Boys, a white supremacist group, including Joe Biggs, Ethan Nordine, and Jeremy Bertino. But there is a link between Tarrio, Enrique Tarrio, this $1 million default judgment entered into by a judge in the Superior Court in the District of Columbia this past week, and his January 6th defense. There were two churches near a bar, Harry's Bar, that the Proud Boys were using as their meeting location. And while they were there, they beat up a African-American man that was in the bar and happened to be in the bar, and there was a struggle that ensued. They then went wilding outside of that particular bar located in the District of Columbia, and they started to attack black churches that were nearby, including the Asbury Methodist Church, which is the oldest church, a black church, historic black church, the District of Columbia, and this one, the Metro African Methodist Episcopal Church. On the Asbury Church, they ripped down a banner, a flag, and burned it in the streets. And Enrique Tarrio was picked up for that, arrested, charged, and when he failed to appear for his court appearance and he came back to the District of Columbia for Jan 6, you can't make this stuff up, he was picked up on a warrant and processed for arrest again and held in the local jail on gun charges and on charges related to him having been, not having properly appeared in the case related to the Asbury church fire, church flag fire. And that's why Enrique Tarrio was not at the Capitol or the Ellipse on Jan 6th, not because he's a choir boy of any type. So now we come full circle. When they weren't burning banners, they were ripping down other items from churches, in this case, the church that we talked about, the Metropolitan African Methodist Church, and Judge Neil Kravitz issued a default judgment, meaning no one from the Proud Boys apparently they have a company, like Proud Boys Limited Liability Company, LLC, and they were sued as well. Nobody appeared for any of them. Now look, Tarrio, Biggs, and the rest got convicted in May. They haven't been sentenced yet. It's another month or so away, and they are in pre-sentence detention in the jail in D.C., but their lawyers could have appeared. In fact, their lawyer, Norm Pattis, who's been a lawyer for all of these ridiculous traitors to our country, including representing Alex Jones in the defamation case where he brought by the parents of the Sandy Hook shooting, when he claimed in his podcast over and over again that it was a hoax and a false flag event. Norm Pattis has represented those people too. Norm Pattis has had his bar license suspended for improper conduct in a courtroom. But Norm Pattis had a very heartless comment when he was reached for comment about some of his clients, the Proud Boys, being found in default over $1 million. He says, I don't think the church will ever see a dime of that money, and I don't think anyone's losing sleep over this. Thanks, Norm Pattis, for making me proud to be a lawyer with statements like that. It's one thing to represent your people in a justice system that's based on the adversarial process and people having the right to an attorney. It's another thing adopting the language and the ethos of your clients and becoming just like them. And that's what Norm Pattis has done there. So we have justice being done again. Even when you're in jail, other people are going to bring the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, Donald Trump, and others with civil cases to justice. For those around the world that watch on our MeidasTouch network, our podcast Legal AF, and scratch their head about our justice system, you're now watching the justice system in state level and federal level, civil and criminal, catch up with the heinous level and volume of crimes committed by Donald Trump, thousands of people that descended at his request and his command on our Capitol, and we're just picking up the pieces from it now. But I assure you, the Justice Department and the justice system, both state, federal, local, criminal, and civil, is catching up. And people are being brought to justice, just like the Proud Boys, who are now going to have a default judgment. What can they do with it? So it's not just what we call a paper judgment, and they can get some money off of it. This church can now, if they had a limited liability company, they can go own it. They can go collect it. They can go find bank accounts, find real property. And the Proud Boys operate. Many of the Proud Boys, a number of them, are literally on the Republican committee in Miami-Dade County, right? They've been elected to the Republican committee in Miami-Dade County, Proud Boys. So they've got property, and they were all sued individually. So the church and its lawyers are going to go find Enrique Tarrio's house, his motorcycle, his car, and everybody else until they fully collect that $1 million. Now it's up to the lawyers to use their sleuthing, their detective work, to go find those assets and make the lawyer for them, Norm Pattis, eat his words about this historic black church who suffered greatly at the hands of the Proud Boys, not ever getting a dime. I think that's a challenge that the lawyers for the churches are up to. I report on these types of things about every day, only on the MeidasTouch network. I co-founded and co-anchored the leading political and legal podcast out there. It's on YouTube, on the MeidasTouch network. You can get the audio version of it on all platforms, wherever you get your audio. If you like what I'm doing here on hot takes like this one, Michael Popok, give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment. It helps with the algorithms. It opens the dialogue between us. It helps the quality and the quantity of things that we bring to you. And you can follow me on all things social media at MS Popok. This is Michael Popok, Legal AF reporting.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.